All right. I think...
Are we on?
Yeah, we got it. All right.
Okay.
Good deal. It's working.
Wow.
That took a while. We had some technical difficulties, but we got the microphone working. And we're here. We're here in the dungeon.
In the depths of hell studios.
Yeah. That would be an accurate description. Kyle's basement, a.k.a. And we got a podcast today that is just yourself and I.
Yeah, it is. We don't have old Coach with us today, but
Coach is he's in Iowa, right?
Yeah,
he's in Iowa.
He's closing his big deal, working on buying Disney or something like that.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
But
he couldn't be with us today.
No, we cannot.
But nevertheless, we got a good lineup here. We got some key talking points, I think.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of that that's happened since our last podcast here in Loserville.
Oh, quite so much stuff. And
so we got some Vikings talk. They're halfway point in the season here.
Yep.
8 games in. Twins made a couple moves this week.
Interesting to say the least.
Your Gophers. How about your Gophers? We'll get to some coaching news there later on, and then we'll finish up probably with some Wild talk. We got a game tonight, Minnesota Wild at the Carolina Hurricanes. So we'll get to some Wild talk, and that'll pretty much close up the show for us.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds pretty current. Haven't had a whole lot of time to do these podcasts, but there's been a lot that has happened between podcasts. But yeah, we should be good stuff.
No!
So let's play.
Yes! Oh, let's get started. Let's talk about. Let's just start off right off the bat here. Let's talk some Vikings. 6-2.
6-2.
Going to Oakland this weekend. Taking on the 4-4 Raiders. What are your early thoughts on the game this weekend?
I like it. It's a real.
You like the matchup?
It's a real good game that's got some juicy matchups, some juicy comparisons. We've got on one side of the ball we've got Amari Cooper. The other side of the ball we've got Stephon Diggs. Really gonna love to watch those two counterparts. See what those guys can bring to the table, and then we've got Anthony Barr and Khalil Mack as counterparts also. And so let's see which one.
Not to be confused with Matt Khalil.
Yes, Matt Khalil. But hopefully Matt Khalil can handle Khalil Mack this week. Yeah,
how about Derek Carr having a pretty good season so far?
Yeah, Derek Carr, he's...
You doubted him.
I did doubt him.
You doubted him.
I doubted him. I thought, as I always do, I always think quarterbacks are going to be huge busts coming out of college.
Well, that's because most of them are.
Most of them are. But the ones that aren't are the ones that really surprise you. Derek Carr, out of what, Fresno State?
Yeah, probably the best quarterback in the 2014 draft class thus far. He had 19 touchdowns to 4 interceptions this year. That's a pretty good ratio.
That is very good. His completion percentage is still something to be desired at 63%, but it's still up about 5% from 58 last year.
Yeah,
which is always, you always want to see that out of your quarterbacks as positive trends from the first year to the second year. And I imagine, as any good quarterbacks do, he will probably keep trending positive.
Do you think it's too early to say that he's going to be a better quarterback than Bridgewater?
Yeah, I do. Teddy, he's...
Because numbers-wise right now, Derek Carr is definitely the better quarterback right now. But
numbers-wise,
it could be too early to tell for sure in the long run.
That very well may be true. Bridgewater, obviously, yeah, he doesn't have the numbers, but he has been a lot more clutch than that of Derek Carr.
Well, his winning percentage is a lot higher.
And his winning percentage is a lot higher.
And that could be, in fairness, that could be a byproduct of the teams they're playing for. The Raiders have been bad for some time. The defense is awful.
Yeah, that's
the
main difference between these two teams is that our defense has been so stout. Our defense has done a complete 180 from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And their defense is Well, their defense is liver cancer basically right now.
Well, it's kind of an interesting matchup. They got a pretty high-powered offense right now, at least. Scored 35 last week in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr, almost 20 touchdowns this year, as we mentioned. Mm-hmm. Against our vaunted Minnesota Vikings defense.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting, I think.
And then their terrible defense against our, so far, I would say, pretty mediocre offense.
Yes, it's definitely been an average offense. So I think what this matchup is going to warrant is a low-scoring game this week.
You think so?
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because our defense, I think they're going to give that offense some fits. Yeah, Derek Carr's got good numbers, but our defense, he's never. I don't think he's really seen a defense quite like ours, and it's going to cause some problems for him. I definitely think, and our offense will be fine, I believe, because
Oakland's defense the worst, literally dead last in pass defense in the league.
Yeah,
Charles Woodson is a dinosaur, and he's still starting for them.
Yeah.
So that should tell you something.
Yeah. All in all, I think if you take, a fantastic defense and a mediocre offense and a great offense and a horrid defense, I think the one with the mediocre offense and the stout defense in the Minnesota Vikings comes away with the victory this week.
We'll see. It should be a good test. It's probably... I don't know. What do you think? It's probably the best offense that the Vikings defense will have faced so far this year. I would think.
I would say so.
Denver's defense
was pretty good. It was up there, but yeah, I still think our defense will cause problems for Derek Carr because he's a young quarterback.
It should be a good warm-up for the Packers next weekend.
Yeah, you got to think so. Again, I guess if we want to look that far forward into the future, the Packers, their defense is lacking. It's not quite as bad as Oakland, but it's definitely lacking. And then obviously Green Bay's offense is somewhat diseased with all their injured receivers. But they have the best quarterback in the game too, so that kind of compensates for a lot of that.
Anyway, we are at the halfway point of the season so far, 6-2, like we said. So Kyle, here's the question: can the Vikings sustain? Will they make the playoffs?
Midway point, put me on the spot. If I had to go a definite yes or no right now, I say,
well, let's do this. Let's look at the remaining schedule, and we'll go by one, and just give me your quick hit, win or loss.
All right, we'll go quick twitch.
All right, at the Raiders this weekend.
Win.
At home against the Packers next weekend.
Loss.
At the Falcons.
I think we'll steal that one.
So we're at 2-1 so far.
Yes.
Next game's at home against Seattle.
Win.
3-1. On the road the following Thursday, short week in Arizona.
Loss.
3-2. The next week at home against the Bears.
That's going to be a win.
4-2. And then at home against the Giants.
Win.
5-2 at Lambeau Field to finish the season.
Loss.
That'd put us on a 5-3. We'd be 11-5. That'd be good enough for a playoff spot.
Okay. Well, yeah, it would. But I can see quite a few of those games going either way. The one Green Bay at home I can see going either way, and the one against Seattle I can see going either way.
Well, kind of an interesting stat that I saw this week leading up to the Oakland game. The 4-game win streak the Vikings are on.
4 in a row for the Skull. 4 in a row for the Skull. 4 in a row for the Skull. Let's go.
Let's play. So the 4-game win streak they're currently on, The combined total of points they won all 4 of those games by? 21.
Ooh! Ooh! Shoot! Shoot!
They beat the Chiefs by 6.
Well then.
They beat the Lions by 9. They beat the Bears and the Rams by 3. So there you go. Let me ask you this, though, since we are on the Vikings subject. Teddy Bridgewater, what are your thoughts on him so far this series? Had, honestly, a pretty average year. I don't think he's taken the steps to get to that status of the elite quarterback that people around here have thought that he can be, and he still could be. Yeah. But so far this season, I don't think we've seen enough out of him to make you really believe that he's climbing that ladder.
Yeah, to me, he's still got quite a bit of growing up to do. Obviously, we know that he can make the big plays when he needs to, but at the same time, he throws balls at times that just aren't even close to his receivers now, whether that's because the receiver runs the wrong route or he just threw a bad ball. That remains to be seen for some of them, but I just think he's still got growing up to do, which is okay because he's 23 years old, just had his birthday a couple days ago, newly 23. But yeah, it's still a process with him. I think, give him another couple years. Maybe he develops a little bit more consistency with his accuracy, and his big playmaking is always going to be there. So
yeah, I think the one thing he's had trouble with even since he got here was his downfield throws, and I think you've seen that kind of continue this year, where several passes he's either overthrowing or underthrowing his receiver, and it kind of it makes you wonder if he's just going to kind of be that quarterback where he's going to throw the short to intermediate routes and kind of rely on his receivers to get the yards after the catch. And it's not that you can't be successful that way, but going to the matchup this week, you see with Oakland's quarterback Derek Carr, all taken in the same draft. He's got more of that, I guess, gunslinger kind of mentality where he'll, throw it 60 yards down the field to Amari Cooper, who goes up and gets the ball.
Right.
Now, maybe, it could be just a matter of his receivers, not running the right routes. I know, because the one deep throw he did have this year that comes to my mind is the Stephon Diggs touchdown in Detroit, if you remember that one, the fingertips catch Diggs made in the end zone. Yep. And that was a well-thrown ball. But there's a couple of them. There's been a couple to Mike Wallace this year, who's supposed to be kind of that deep threat, and Teddy's just overthrown him, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
When you're throwing to Mike Wallace, who's as fast as he is. Now, a couple of them, I thought that Mike Wallace could have made plays on, but it's just that question that's there because you haven't seen it consistently enough where the Vikings are able to make those, deep passes and at least make defenses respect that there's a chance there that they can stretch the field on you.
Right, and I don't know if Bridgewater has really been a big deep ball guy as a quarterback, has he? Or
no, I don't. Even in his days at Louisville, I remember leading up to that draft and kind of looking at, scouting quarterbacks because I had a good feeling we were going to probably take a quarterback, and I remember looking at Bridgewater and watching some of the scouting report videos on him and just some game highlights and game film from him, and you didn't see a whole lot of deep passing. You saw, I think the more deep passes you saw were deep crossing routes.
Right.
And the thing that you liked in those was he was so accurate. But I think that's part of the problem we're missing. It's not so much the arm strength right now on deep throws. It's just the touch is missing just a little bit. And it's not bad, It's not like he's overthrowing receivers by 10 yards or underthrowing them or throwing them out of bounds all the time. But it almost seems just like a timing issue where he's just a little bit too far in front of the receiver, or he gets a little too, antsy or too, kind of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just wants to throw the ball a little too early, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think some of those things can be corrected with just working on timing with receivers and just kind of relaxing back there and throwing the ball like he throws any other ball, because he's usually very accurate when he's on.
Yeah, maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs to try and develop somewhat of a deep ball game a little bit more, and maybe that could be something he works on, or maybe it's just that he's just not a deep ball guy, and we're going to have to he is what he is, and we'll have to settle for those, intermediate routes at most, and hope that we can, have or gain receivers that will be able to get those yards after the catch. So I guess, jury's really kind of still out on him just because of his whole development his development, and, he's a good quarterback, no doubt about it, but, he's still developing too, so, only time will tell whether if he's going to be a great quarterback or a good quarterback or an elite quarterback. It's still, the jury's still out for me on Bridgewater as well as just the whole team in general for me this year yet. So,
yeah, and the 6-2 is, that's undoubtedly, the second half of the schedule is a lot tougher than the first half. They've already played the Lions twice, and the Lions are completely ratty. They played, the Chiefs. They played and lost to San Francisco, which really, I think that could be glaring at the end of the year, that loss to San Francisco. Even now, just imagine if you win that game in San Francisco like you probably should have, because the 49ers are awful.
Yeah.
You'd be 7-1 right now. You'd be sitting pretty in the NFC.
Yeah.
Top seed in the NFC North.
Yeah, we would be riding high. But the thing, it's kind of funny. It's kind of good, but it's kind of bad, in the sense that when you look at this 6-2 record that they have,
yeah,
it's a soft 6-2 record to me, because they very well could have easily lost. For these 4 wins that they've had, they could have very easily been losses.
Yeah.
And
I'm kind of remembering back to last year, they had a few games like that, and they lost all those. And it's kind of interesting that they've won those close games this year.
And that's exactly where I was going with that, is that, any other team, like if it would have been last year's team 2 years ago, they would have blown all those games.
Yeah.
They definitely would have blown all those games, and we'd be looking at another 2-6 record and saying, tank for Nick Chubb or whoever the top running back is coming out of.
Tank for half Chubb.
Half Chubb. Let's get the half Chubb. Let's get half Chubb.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said, though, for winning, learning how to win. Like Mike Zimmer said a couple weeks ago, there's something to be said about learning how to win. And I think you're seeing this team kind of making that step, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really, in those toss-up games, it's really... It takes a while to learn how to win those games and how to handle that type of situation. And I think last year they had a hard time with it. And they gained some experience through that, and I think you're seeing them be better this year. They're better in the clutch, like you've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get nervous when it gets down to crunch time,
Right.
And I think that's why you're seeing them win these close games now as opposed to losing them. But you take a look at their schedule coming up, man. It's a gauntlet.
Yeah,
they got to play the Seahawks, albeit at home.
Gah.
Arizona on the road.
Jeez.
And 2 times against the Green Bay Packers.
Gasp.
Yeah. So and the Atlanta Falcons are 6-2, and they're no slouch either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Giants. The Giants are not. They always turn it on at the end of the year.
Yeah, they're that sneaky team that always likes to either play spoiler or they're just there to cause general havoc at the end of the year. But
yeah, and so honestly, and then Oakland this weekend. Oakland might be the easiest of the remaining games coming up.
Oh, without question, with that defense, I don't doubt that. It would not surprise me in the least if Teddy Bridgewater has at least 350 yards passing.
Well, I think that would calm down a lot of Vikings fans.
Yeah.
At least
it'd settle me down a little bit. That's for sure.
At least if Bridgewater is not going to be that elite kind of gunslinging quarterback against every team, at least take a step and do it against the worst passing defense in the league. You'd at least hope he's got a couple hundred yards and a couple touchdowns, right?
Yeah, you gotta think he's gonna have a couple passing touchdowns this week, and if not next week, then I don't know if it's really if we're ever gonna see a real big game from him after next week. We're going to really have to rely on some more offensive strategery from Uncle Norv, and then obviously we'll just, let the defense run loose and cause all hell and lay the wood.
Lay the wood, so to speak.
Speaking of that Zimmer defense, how do you like the progression from what it was last year to what it's kind of become this year? And even going back beyond last year when Zimmer came in, kind of inherited one of the worst defenses in Vikings history.
Oh my God, yeah.
And he's got that defense into, points wise in terms of how many points they give up. Vikings, I think, are the top defense in the league right now, top 3 for sure.
Yeah, we haven't seen a defense, especially a run defense like this, since we had the Williams Wall. It's just been fantastic. When you see all these runners, running around the outside, getting into open space, my natural reaction is throw my hands up. Oh, God, here he goes. He's going to get the edge, and he's going to go for another 12, 15 yards. But nope, you see an outside linebacker, safety, cornerback come up and wrap those legs. I got to tell you, the tackling on this defense has been just unbelievable to watch this year.
Yeah, the tackling has been really sure tackling. And I think I remember one play last weekend I was watching in the Rams game where Todd Gurley kind of bounced one outside, and he was one-on-one with Xavier Rhodes, and Xavier Rhodes made just a great open field tackle on him and brought him down. And I think if Rhodes had missed that tackle, he probably would have been. Gurley might not have been touched to the end zone.
And how about that shoestring trip up by Brian Robinson on Tavon Austin last week too? That was something.
Yeah,
else.
It was almost. It was kind of. I had to watch it on replay again and kind of slow mo it.
Yeah,
because he missed the tackle. But he kind of reached behind him and slapped his foot.
Yeah, he got just enough of his foot to where it messed up his rhythm of his running motion.
It was right when he was in stride with that foot, and it just messed him up. And it was kind of funny because it happened so fast. It almost looked like Tavon Austin just missed the ground when he tried to run and he fell down.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he skipped a step and he just fell over. That was again just another great tackling play by this just unbelievable defense that we've been having so far.
Yeah, and they've been. The thing I like about the defense that Zimmer runs is it's an aggressive defense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just sit back and play coverage all the time.
Right.
They bring pressure, and they don't bring it all the time. They're strategic about it.
Yeah.
But it seems like when they do bring pressure, which they do fairly often, they are able to cause a lot of trouble for opposing offenses. And I think that is going to be huge in the games we got coming up, especially when you've seen how the Packers have performed the past couple weekends against good pass rushing teams, good defensive fronts in Denver and Carolina. The Green Bay Packers have been kind of flustered and almost manhandled to an extent in those games. And given the fact that they're, obviously one of the better teams in the NFC, at least they have been for the better part of a decade, and the fact that they're a division rival and the team we're tied for right now atop the NFC North with, it bodes well, I think, if the Vikings can kind of generate that same sort of pass rush and that same disruptive effort against the Packers this year, because tied at the halfway point with them, and we play them twice
right
in the season yet. So the games against them are going to have beyond just being rivalry games, they're going to carry a lot of weight potentially for division and playoff seeding. So if you can take that blueprint that Denver and Carolina have shown the past couple of weekends with the strong defense, strong pass rush, and kind of make that happen and get to Aaron Rodgers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We could be looking at a possible division championship this year. Knock on wood, provided everything else goes well.
That very well may be, but this defense is very, very good, but they are by no means perfect. I think we've seen them, towards the end of games, they start to get a little bit porous. Maybe it's the opposing offenses being able to, figure out our defensive schemes late in the game or what have you. Maybe it's the fact that the defense is on the field so much that they get tired. Whatever it may be. I
don't like how we've seen, just going off what you said, the past couple weekends, how Chicago kind of came back in that we were putting a beat down on Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back in that game, and all of a sudden, Jake Cutler started slinging it to everybody. Martellus Bennett, Alshon Jeffrey had a great touchdown. And it seemed like the defense, I think the most frustrating part about it is it seems like the defense just goes from 100 to 0 so fast. Like, it's just like one series they're 3 and out, and the next series they're allowing a 90-yard drive for a touchdown. And it's just, it kind of... I guess I'm with you. I don't really know what it is. I don't know if they're just getting tired. Because the offense, let's be honest, hasn't been great either.
Right.
And they've been putting the defense back out on the field a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just them getting tired or if the opposing offense is figuring them out kind of. Mm-hmm. But whatever it is, you'd like to see a little more consistency.
Right, and with that Green Bay game coming up next weekend, you rest assured Aaron Rodgers is going to have all those imperfections, all those little hindrances that the Vikings have. He's going to have those all picked out going into the game. So the defense is just going to have to want it more than Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense. The defensive line is going to have to outmuscle the offensive line. The linebackers, they're going to have to make perfect reads nearly every play, and those guys in the secondary, they're going to have to be shadowed. They're going to have to shadow those wide receivers and not even hardly give them any room to breathe in order for us to have a chance against the Packers, because Aaron Rodgers is going to light you up if you make one little mistake. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and and the thing about the Packers is they can put up offense in a hurry. You can keep them down the whole game, and in 5 minutes they can score 3 touchdowns.
Well, and we saw that last weekend against Carolina. Carolina was absolutely trouncing them, and then 5 minutes later they're within a score of the Panthers, and it looks like they just might come from behind and pull it off. Yeah. So that's just another testament to how fast and how efficient this Green Bay Packers offense can be with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback.
Well, that's going to do it for the Vikings coverage. That's going to do it for segment 1. When we come back, we're going to have some Twins talk, making a couple moves this week. And then we're going to have some Gophers talk, Gopher football with Kyle Glazer, the super fan. That'll be after this.